too.
Hello and good afternoon. We are at the home of Mr. David, and Mr. David lives in the Algiers area of New Orleans, Louisiana. And we're going to talk to Mr. David today about his history here in New Orleans, about Katrina, and also about the most recent hurricane, which is Hurricane Isaac. And Mr. David is, I think, 81 years of age. And he's going to share some experiences with you all. And I'd like for you to listen carefully. And at the end of this video, we'll give you some idea on how you could assist Mr. David in the repair and renovation of his home. Much needed assistance. Unfortunately, the insurance company and the federal government have not been forthcoming in the necessary funds, all the funds that are needed to help Mr. David from Katrina, and also to help Mr. David since the most recent hurricane, which was Hurricane Isaac. Mr. David, how are you doing today, sir?
How you doing, sir?
I'm pretty good. Now, Mr. David, I want you to share with our viewers a little bit about yourself. Where were you originally born? Were you born here in New Orleans?
No, in Mississippi.
In Mississippi.
Up in the Delta.
Okay.
Okay, my parents lived on a farm. But when I got to be about 5 years old, I went to stay with my grandmother in another part of Mississippi called Greenville, Mississippi.
Okay.
Which was a little town. And that's where I mostly grew up with her, but during the summer months, they would send you back to the country.
Okay.
But during school months, I would come back to her.
Okay.
So my parents were very, very poor. My dad had little or no education. My mama had a fairly decent education. But that's where I arrived. Of course, I went to school as a little boy, and they insisted I get an education.
Good.
So I did that. All I had was a high school education. Wasn't able to go to college. So at 18 years old, I got married. Okay? But all my life, I've worked. From 11 years old, I started paying Social Security.
Yes, sir.
At 11.
Wow.
Okay. I had to work because my parents moved from the country to the city. And my dad had asthma. In fact, the asthma killed him. Okay, so I had to be the husband and the caretaker.
For the rest of the family.
Right. For my brothers and sisters.
Were you the oldest of?
The oldest. I am the oldest.
Okay.
The only four was living, still living. It was 8 of us. Both still living.
Okay. So you got married at 18, and
at
then,
18.
And then what happened?
And went in service at 18.
You went into the military.
Right.
What branch of the military did you?
Army.
Into the Army.
Went into the Army.
What years was it?
Korean War.
That's during the Korean War.
1951.
1951. And were you shipped out?
I shipped out. I went to Okinawa.
Okinawa.
I spent about 30 months on Okinawa.
30 months, almost 3 years.
Right. You see, when I first went in, they were drafting you for 24 months. But if you took some extra months, you didn't have no reserve time.
Yes.
So I taken them a plus. I volunteered for Korea every time I got ready to go. They canceled my order. So I stayed on Okinawa until I come back here. Then I went to Camp Polk.
Which was? What city and state?
Camp Polk is where I got out of service. I wanted to go back overseas, but I didn't want to go to Vietnam.
Yes, Vietnam War. So right after the Korean War, not too long after, comes the Vietnam War.
Right. But I was an intelligence specialist in service. That was my job. I did good. I went to school for that and everything. So I did good. I would have gone through ranks quicker, but the rank was froze and you couldn't make nothing. So I got to be a sergeant. I remember when I was a sergeant in 19 months. When I got out, I was up a sergeant first class.
Sergeant first
but
class.
I turned it down because I was getting out. I felt like someone who is making a career at this should have gotten the rank.
Okay.
I wanted to stay, but I wanted to go back to the Far East. They didn't want to send me. They wanted me to go to Nam. At that time, it was really bad. And so I got out of service. Then jobs was hard to find and everything. My kids, I had to try to take care. They only had a seasonal job in the area where I lived in.
And what area was that?
Greenville, Mississippi, in the Delta.
Okay.
You ever heard of the blues?
Oh, of course. Who's Greenville? Was it B.B. King?
B.B. King.
From that area.
35 miles from my home.
Yes.
That's where he is. He got a museum there now.
Yes, sir.
But that's where I grew up.
So how'd you end up in New Orleans?
The Corps of Engineers out of Vicksburg were hired.
That's the Army Corps of Engineers?
Army Corps of Engineers, but they just worked sometimes 2-3 months, and they would return back to their terminal. So before Bessie, I was with them. We were working up Morgan.
And for our viewership, Hurricane Betsy was a big hurricane that occurred in 1965.
65.
Yes, sir.
That's it. It was a big one. I was up to Morganza on the river. We were redoing that levee up there. So, after the hurricane, we came down here to work at Algiers Point.
Algiers Point. Not too far from where you live right now.
So, but I stayed down in New South Peak. Okay? And I used to get the Advocate. At that time, around here, work was blooming. It was booming.
Booming, huh? A lot of jobs.
A lot of jobs. Grain elevators, everything was filled up.
Wow.
We was the #1 shipping port.
#1 shipping port.
We were #1. New Orleans. So, then we only worked about 2 months, and they returned back to Vicksburg.
To Vicksburg. Okay, hold that thought. And we're going to be back with part 2 of this interview with Mr. David. And he's going to continue on the journey of telling us about his life.